Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Cryptids and Conspiracies. This is Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics. I got a couple of guys backstage. I'm going to bring them on. Random order. Let me start with this one.
Abby someone.
Abby someone.
Abby who? Abby normal.
Hello. You're muted, Bunny. There you go.
I know. It does that delayed thing. All right. So we'll bring this guy on real quick.
Sir, nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
That's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
You know, I call bullshit on Wookiee Rage because...
Welcome to the show.
What the hell? Gremlins running around here, muting everybody. Conspiracy. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria.
Well, it is called Cryptids and Conspiracies for a reason.
All right. Hey, let's bring out our favorite Scotsman.
Yeah.
Come on.
Got a little bit of both. You're the cryptid.
Delayed.
1 sec. All right. Let me bring the last guy on.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap!
The last guy.
The last guy.
Crow, wake up, Crow!
Hello, everyone. Good evening. How's everybody?
All right.
Dreading tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot, that's right.
Yes, Monday.
Let's all be depressed on the stream tonight. Then.
Exactly.
We should.
So we're doing.
We should.
Well, we have to do some
COVID going on. I need to
night. There you go. No, I had a party last night. I had to go to, so I'm.
Yes,
designated.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a designated driver for somebody called Drunk Craig. Okay, so
was he drunk?
Yes, he was drunk.
A little bit, right?
Anyway. Well, it's hard to tell in that family. They're all functional alcoholics, so you know.
Oh,
it is what it
Oh,
is.
those are the fun.
Kind of like
kinds.
Scottish.
Functional alcoholics. Okay.
Yeah, it's got. Well, no, I'm
Yeah.
fall all over the place when I get pissed.
I only drink at home.
No, that could probably do advanced calculus drunk. It's a weird family. It really is. They all have livers like steel or something.
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
I said yes. The functioning alcoholics are quite interesting people.
Yeah.
Just don't let them drive.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
Just get your cell phone camera out and start taking pictures.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Well, so today, yesterday actually was anniversary of something called Pearl Harbor.
Yes, it was.
And it's so how many years is that? 50
83 years ago.
83 years ago. Yes.
Wow.
83. Okay. Yeah, I'm way off. 83 years ago. All right. Well, I'm dedicating this one to my grandfather. No, he wasn't a hero. He wasn't on one of the ships or anything like that. He was a conspiracy theorist, and about the only time he would talk to me is to espouse his theory that FDR knew about Pearl Harbor. So yeah, loving grandfather. After he died, and all my aunts and uncles were telling these wonderful stories about it. I'm like, who are we talking about? They're all looking at me like, we know about your grandfather. And I was like, wow, that guy? All he did was sit in the bar at lunch and grunt and espouse that FDR knew about Pearl Harbor at me every once in a while. So anyway, today's is is dedicated to my grandfather, the senior to my dad's junior. So, anyways, this is close I'm ever going to come to like dedicating anything to him. So there you go. All right. So okay,
close family bond.
yeah, close family bonds, right?
Close
yeah.
family bond. Yep.
Yeah, I hear of those things from time to time.
Yes,
I don't have any of those, but I hear of them.
Speak of family bond.
There you go.
What is this you speak of? Family bond?
All right. Well, we'll go back a few years, quite a few years before World War II. And there was a man named of Yamamoto who was sent to America. And he was sent there to spy out our resources.
Yep.
And he sent back a couple of edicts to Imperial Japan. One of them was a bodily invasion of America would be impossible. They'd be firing at you from behind every blade of grass.
Yep.
That was one thing he said.
Right.
Yep.
B-Dog.
And
all right, B-Dog.
Yeah.
B-Dog.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he also basically said that America's resources were immense, and that I'm going to paraphrase. We really shouldn't fuck with them. That's pretty much what he said. I'm just going to sum it up.
See, they listened to him.
And yeah. Funny thing about it was they're like, not only are we going to ignore your advice, we're going to put you in charge of attacking America. And
So
because
you
you know
can
so
be the
much about
scapegoat.
it. So
Good job.
yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much how things went in Imperial Japan. There were just a bunch of lackeys, a bunch of like butt kissers, and a bunch of like war hungry individuals who thought they were samurai, and so it was like a ancient culture that was. Yeah, it's like an ancient, backwards culture that had a lot of big weaponry that they wanted to try out, and they just pretty much destroyed everybody that was in their path, like China and people like that.
Oh yeah,
and,
China, Korea, it pretty much massacred the hell out of all those places.
Yeah.
Well, the Sino, the Sino Japanese War, which they won against the Russians, kind of like made them believe that they could take on anybody. And then at this time, they had like one of the most advanced, navies in the world at that time. Most of their ships were less than 20 years old. And America, not so much. Most of their ships were built in the teens, right before World War One.
They had to retrofit a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the only the newish stuff was the aircraft carriers we had, but the majority, like all the battleships, were the older stuff.
Yeah. So and a lot of those were parked at Pearl Harbor. At that time, called it Battleship Row, and
they had made Pearl Harbor the kind of the hub of the Pacific Fleet at that point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So basically, what we had was essentially we had we hadn't been at war with anybody in a long time, and most of our stuff was kind of outdated because when you're in peace times, you don't really look into technical innovation, especially if you're a capitalist country,
Right.
No.
And if nobody messes with you, you pretty much, it's like the bully never learns martial arts. You ever notice that?
Right.
Big guys pretty much rely on big guys. Go ahead.
We really didn't have a big standing army at the time either. We felt no need for it as a nation, which was weird.
No. And we at the time we had a Congress that was very reluctant to get involved, and England's like, hey, when are you gonna get involved here? And FDR is kind of like
we're getting bombed the shit out of. We need help.
Yeah. Yep. At that time, there was a Battle of England, and they're by themselves. Everybody else, the French had done what my grandpa calls French calisthenics. Oh, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Exactly.
Okay, my grandfather had his moments. All right, that was pretty damn funny. but yeah. So
you're on about retrofitting. I'm just looking at the USS Texas entered service in 1914 and went under extensive retrofitting to reinforce her torpedo protection in World War II. Received powerful AA armament. See what happens when you look at World of Warships? Find all this shit.
There you go.
There you go.
Look at the warships. There we go.
Hey, so there you go. Again,
awesome.
That's gamer knowledge. A little gamer knowledge.
There you go. Awesome knowledge there.
But see, America was neutral, but America kind of had been having kind of like done some things that made Japan kind of grind their teeth. So they had sanctions against Japan because of Japan's misbehavior, and they were aiding China in the second side of the Japanese War, and they allowed Japan to access the resources of the Dutch East Indies. And Japan sent out a naval attack groups in November 41, just prior to receiving the whole note, which states the United States desire that they withdraw from China and French Indochina. Japan intended to attack as a preventative action. The aim was to prevent the United States Pacific Fleet from interfering with its planned military actions in Southeast Asia against overseas territories of the United Kingdom and Netherlands. And the United States, over the course of 7 hours, they conducted coordinated attacks on Philippines, Guam, Wake Island, and on the British Empire in Malaya, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So this was Pearl Harbor was just one of many attacks that they.
Yeah, there was a simultaneous attack.
Yeah, they went after
American and British hubs.
Right.
Yep. Throughout the
South all this was architected by the aforementioned Admiral Yamamoto, who was a bit of a military genius. And but he kept saying, he's like, if you want me to attack them, you must know they will right now they're outmoded, that right now they're archaic, and but that country's got resources, and when they'll ramp up fast, and before we know it we're going to be up to our asses, and superior ships, and a whole lot of men, men and women, mostly men. Okay, this is what we're
highly motivated,
but highly motivated men. Yeah. As a matter of fact, after the attack, he says, I'm afraid we've awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve.
Yes.
And that's what he sent back to the,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
geniuses don't do stupid shit.
They do. They do if they're in
under orders.
If
they're under
especially
orders,
in a culture where, especially in a culture where you had two options: obey the order or cut yourself open with a knife.
Pretty much.
And decapitate yourself.
Well, that's what I was waiting to say. If you're lucky, your best mate's behind you, ready to decapitate you.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
it's called Harry Carry, and basically you gut yourself with the knife, and then another person decapitates you. And that's what they did to people that disobeyed orders. If you disobeyed an order, you had to that's pretty much what.
And that goes back to the samurai traditions and stuff. So,
that goes back centuries.
Centuries, absolutely.
Well, that's what was weird about China at that time. They were an imperial ancient culture that was trying to be like a modern culture, but they wouldn't let go of like their edicts and their traditions and things like that. And so there's always a fight between the two.
Yeah.
And one of the traditions was they'd fight to the last man. They never admitted defeat. They die before they lost their honor.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much. Yeah. And so any war that they started, they were going to be in it till the end, and that's what Yamamoto knew. And but they were pretty much like, okay, you either follow orders or we'll take you, give us your head. And so he's like, oh well,
Yeah. Well, that's it.
So
and obviously in contrast to the retrofitting and things like that, because when I was looking on there, it's just the Yamato, because everybody remembers that entered service in 1941.
Yeah, it was a brand new ship.
That was a new ship, and the sister ship was new as well. So I forget the name of that one, but yeah,
I think the sister.
It's the largest ship. It was the largest ship in the world.
Yeah,
at that time.
The Akagi was their newest aircraft carrier.
Right.
Yeah. So the Battleship Yamato.
Well, they had
Yamato.
Yeah, they had a very up to date, very new Navy, and they were just they were trying to become a world power,
right?
And they were probably, but the problem is Japan is a small nation, and they were trying to it was an island nation, and they're trying to take on a nation with more resources, more people, and more ability, more industrial ability than any other nation that has ever existed on the face of the planet. And the Yamamoto tried to tell them this,
right?
That we might be able to bloody their nose initially, but eventually they're going to get back up.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too. Prior to that, prior to Pearl Harbor and all the other attacks, Japan diplomatically was on fairly decent standing with the United States. We had trade agreements with them. We sold them steel, which they turned into planes and armament against us. But, we were on, I guess, fairly even terms with them. They weren't like an ally.
No.
Because, they were, they were fighting one of our allies, which was Britain. So that kind of didn't set well. But they weren't the United States government had some suspicions because it had already been at war. Japan had been with the Southeast Asian countries. They occupied they occupied Korea, and those adjacent peninsulas, China, and they were going all over the place. Malaysia.
But they were in the midst of trying to build an empire.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing the America did to them, and when I was watching this documentary, they embargoed oil to them. They weren't sending them any oil.
Yeah.
So they had to get their oil from other resources. Yeah. I don't know where they got it from.
Right.
Because they just have no problem.
They stole it, invaded it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Japan would have had to.
You see, at that time,
Japan would have had to have solidified more power before effectively taking on the United States. They would have been, what would you would consider it? They would have been punching above their weight, way above their weight,
way above their weight.
Yes, way above
at that time.
Yep.
So,
we'll see.
The only thing that they had to do it had to be a sneak attack at Pearl. They didn't know, because no one at Pearl knew it was coming.
Yeah.
No.
Well, so that's kind of the question we're going to ask today. Did FDR know beforehand? And so I brought up some comments that I saw on a one of the videos I watched, and I believe in the wisdom of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these comments were really good, so I'm going to read them. Hold on one second. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Oh, I'm froze.
Modern technology.
Yeah. You guys still there?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Hello.
We're still here.
We can put a man on the moon.
Oh, he gone.
He gone.
Uh-oh.
Stream done.
No. It looks like he's having some spotty internet issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I don't blame him back there. You know, they're probably still not fully functional back there yet.
Yeah.
Fully
functional.
Well, yeah, you know, my granddad was stationed at Pearl Harbor during this time. And he was part of the Enterprise battle group on a frigate.
Was that Junior?
Yeah, and they were sent out to sea 2 days before the attack to do training and patrols and maneuvers and stuff.
Right. Yeah, they did a lot of stuff.
And they wanted to come back once they found out that it was under attack, and they were told to stay at sea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they wanted to protect the assets.
Yeah.
Right.
Well. Yeah. All right. I can't bring comments up evidently.
Ruh-roh.
So
damn
but
again.
It's the black helicopters, the Illuminati's.
Yeah, there you go.
It's them again.
Well, one of the comments pointed out that the Enterprise was due to be back at Pearl Harbor, but it was delayed by storms.
Yeah.
And so it's like if unless Roosevelt was controlling Mother Nature, then the Enterprise was due to be there. And the Enterprise was the big daddy carrier, the most important one.
Sorry, I don't have the Enterprise. I don't have the Enterprise on World Warships. Sorry.
Yeah. So,
oops.
No problem. I'm sorry.
But well, see, here's a funny thing about this whole situation, and I learned this today because I did not know this, but apparently, there was I guess you would call it like a war game.
Yes.
That happened. It was a war game in 1932 on Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And what happened was the admiral that was on the quote unquote winning side did not use his battleships. He used his 2 aircraft carriers. They used the cover of a storm to get into the Hawaiian Islands and subsequently did mock bombing runs on Battleship Row in 1932. And guess what group of individuals just happened to be stationed on base because they were training with U.S. Japanese brass. Japanese brass were there, watched the whole thing, heard about it, saw it, read about it, talked to them, and communicated to their people.
And the Undersecretary of the Navy at that time, what was his name?
Oh, Undersecretary of the Navy.
Undersecretary of the Navy, and when that went on.
I do not remember. No, I don't know.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
In 32?
Yeah, because he was elected. When was he elected?
Undersecretary of the Navy.
The plot thickens.
Yeah, he was elected.
When was he elected?
When was he elected? I thought he was elected in. Maybe he was elected in 32. He served 5. Well, he had 5 terms. He died in his last one.
Yeah.
All right, let me make sure. I could have a wrong resource. Hold on.
He was president from 1933. From 33 to 45 was when he was president.
Okay. Well, then maybe he was probably. I know he was Undersecretary of the Navy, but I just didn't know.
Assistant Secretary of the Navy from 1913 till 1920.
Oh.
Okay.
Assistant Secretary.
All right, so he was out. He was out by that time. Yeah. But a lot of the ships that were destroyed were ones that he was part of commissioning. So that's one of the things that they pointed out.
So and like I said, that they did this this war game type deal, and this admiral won basically because he used aircraft and aircraft carriers because they thought they were not going to be as effective, but yet they were effective because he scored hits on the battleships and pretty much took them all out of commission. Versus him rolling into port with battleships and going toe to toe with other battleships. Yeah. He used the cover of the sky and the the storm that was they made their way in. They made their way in from the freaking mainland. And I don't know if they came out of San Diego or someplace, but they came out of there and made their way across the ocean. And like I said, and then used the cover of a storm to get closer to Hawaiian Islands, and then they let him rip, and he won. Well, but then they called foul, and it's like, they called foul because he used planes. Ooh, my feels are hurt.
Of course he used, but because they had a longer range of attack.
They disqualified his attack as being, was it something that's would not be possible?
Right.
Not 8 years later, we have, or 9 years later, we have, this.
Well,
Well,
one of the things that Kenny was worried about, the guy who's blamed for Pearl Harbor, was he was afraid of a torpedo attack. And they tried to tell him it was too shallow for torpedo attacks. And
that was
guess what sunk most of the ships. So.
Yeah. Well,
technically he was right. It was shallow, but they had to retrofit the torpedoes for the shallow water.
Yeah, but but they were saying torpedoes from ships wouldn't make it into the harbor. But see,
they were using torpedoes from planes.
Yeah, they dropped them from planes, and so they went over that place that they thought would be a natural barrier, and then dropped them right into the harbor. And so most of the ships were sunk because of that and some bombs. But Kenny basically tried to get his name cleared multiple times, but he was like the scapegoat they used, and so he pretty much carried that all the way to his grave. And his family has never been able to get him to recant it either. But he's the scapegoat. He's the one they chose. But
the admiral, they screwed him over, and because there was the admiral, there was also a U.S. general on the bay on there too, in commanding the U.S. Army forces and the planes, and they pretty much, in my opinion, those two gentlemen were left hang out to dry. They were the scapegoats.
Yes.
But the admiral took the worst of it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he took the worst of it. The thing is that there was a directive from FDR that basically and let's see here, quoting, FDR wanted Japan to commit the first overt act. So, they were there to defend Pearl Harbor and the islands and all this shit, but they couldn't do anything until they did something first.
Right.
And boy, was their first a big one.
So those rules of engagement, you're saying?
Well, it was. It's been said that it was not just FDR. If I can find this guy here. Oh yeah, Admiral Stark and General Marshall.
George Marshall.
Yes, General Marshall and Admiral Stark had the same feelings as FDR, in that they wanted the Japanese military to make the first overt act, basically attack first.
Wow.
Don't defend the place until after you get shot at.
Well, see, what they expected was for Japan to attack like an island base or somewhere at like Wake Island. They expected like Wake Island or Midway.
Yeah.
And but Japan was like, okay, yes to all of that. They attacked everything. At one
they
time.
went across the board.
And what they hoped to do. Well, what they hope to do is cripple the United States Navy so much that the United States will be like, okay, well, we're going to set this one out. That's what they hoped would happen. Because Yamamoto had been telling them basically that. There you go.
Yeah,
but Yamamoto had been telling them for a long time. He's like, they can ramp up like so fast, you will not believe how fast they can ramp up and produce ships and throw stuff at us. But they were kind of looking at their own capabilities, and they were like, well, it would take us 5 years to build up any kind of navy to, if we destroyed their navy, then they won't be able to ramp up. But once again, they missed the carriers. And and the carrier groups had the newest ships on them, and basically what they had in Pearl Harbor was a show of like power, and but all those ships were pretty much outdated. All those ships were pretty much ready to go out to pasture. Most of them were. I think the West Virginia was fairly new, but and so when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and sunk a lot of those ships and killed about 3,000, or maimed about 3,000 people.
Yeah.
That was kind of like if you take a cheap shot. You take a cheap shot at a big guy, and he doesn't see it coming, he doesn't expect it coming.
Well,
and you just like nail him with your best shot. And then he's sitting here, he's kind of like, and he's got a nose bleeding and he's got a black eye. And eventually he's going to be like, oh, clear, his head is clear now because, and then eventually he's going to like say, crack some knuckles and say, okay, all right.
Game
on.
So you see, go ahead.
It's basically if you take a shot at the king, you best not miss.
No.
Yeah.
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 And they didn't miss, but they didn't put them down.
No.
And and basically he got up off the mat. So
absolutely,
this is what Yamamoto told him. But anyway,
go
ahead.
So yeah, I mean, we're the gist of it is that did FDR know? That's the point of this stream. That's the question, and that's the question in on the poll that I have in my chat. You probably have it in your chat too. So the thing is, did FDR know?
I didn't put my poll there today, but
Oh no, okay. Well, the thing is though, but also. It's not just that FDR. We're saying FDR. We're questioning or pondering the question: did FDR know? The thing is that bothers me the most is that communication lines, from people who are either intercepting messages, radar information, things of this nature, were either delayed or told, it's just a bunch of American planes on maneuvers, right?
Right.
It was known that what was going on back then was we were on the brink of war with Japan. We really were. Even though they were we were on fair terms with them. The Japan had already been fighting, like I said before, the Korean Peninsula, China, Malaysia, all the like Vietnam and Laos and all those other freaking places, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, all that shit was under fire. And back then, those places like Australia and New Zealand, those were all British places. Hong Kong was British. So, you know, they were still under the British rule, under the crown. And so FDR wanted to help Britain. Okay, there was the Battle of Britain going on. The Germans were bombing the shit out of London and Britain. The Blitz, the freaking, like I said, in the South Pacific, the Japanese were doing stuff because they were part of the Axis. The Axis had already been there. There wasn't an ally force yet. It was all Axis. Yeah, we were latecomers. Yeah, you know, they already had Italy. They already had Germany and Japan. The thing is, though, all these people that there was signs of something going on in the days leading up to the attack that, like I said, either went nowhere. Someone logged it, said this, that, and the other thing, and tried to send it up the chain of command, and the chain of commands didn't do anything. It didn't go anywhere. It just died on several different fronts. And so it is a fact. It is a fact that Japanese group, the Armada that went out to Pearl Harbor, it is a fact that radio communications were picked up that were done from the ship from the Rear Admiral Naguro. Yeah. Or Naguma. Rear Admiral Naguma.
Naguma. And it was Naguma.
The quote unquote.
Naguma was an idiot.
Yeah,
Naguma was an idiot.
So he sent out radio communications, right? And over the course of a few days, so they were tracking this. The military, U.S. military, was tracking this shit. Yeah. Okay. They all knew what was going on. They knew these signals were getting closer and closer and closer. Okay.
Well, it's been declassified. It's been declassified that the Stamek and his group were monitoring an increase of coded language, and they hadn't. You know, it's true. While it's true they hadn't broken the Japanese code, what they had broken was they were picking up their, you know, like Nagumo. They were supposed to be radio silent in Nagumo because Nagumo was like an old school kind of like he was kind of grandfathered in. He was just like he was old, and his you know his family was like friends with the emperor, so you couldn't get rid of Nagumo, and it cost them midway later.
Yeah, but also the ambassador to the United States from Japan, was told on December 7th at 1 o'clock. No, I'm trying to think what time. Because the attack happened at 6:30 in the morning, so 1 o'clock DC time, 1:30 actually, to stop all negotiations with the United States at that time, not before that time.
Right.
At that time, because that's when the attack was supposed to commence.
Yeah.
And he basically, they basically, oh, by the way, we're at war.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
And and so it's like the declaration came down like after while they were sifting through the ashes of Pearl Harbor. The declaration came down. We're at war, by the way.
Right. If you didn't notice.
And and so it was supposed to happen earlier, but there was like a miscommunication the weekend that happened, and because Pearl Harbor happened on a Sunday, and so evidently people went home, for the weekend, and the Japanese were kind of like saying, well, we're trying to declare war here, who could we talk to? Well, they're not available.
They were at church or whatever.
And so on the Japanese's behalf, they tried to declare war, but people went home for the weekend, so that's right. That was their excuse later. We tried to declare war before we attacked, but the thing about it is whether that was their intention or not, America took it as a slight. You know, that's a cheap shot, basically. And you know, and I you know, I kind of went into this perfectly willing to accept that FDR knew that FDR wanted to get involved in the war, you know, to get him out of the my grandfather said it was to get him out of the Great Depression. The only way was to have a war. And there's some merit to that idea. But the thing about it is there's a couple things that I think like that barriers I can't get over. Okay. First of all, he knew a lot of these ships. And even a communist like FDR, you know, kind of had some kind of affection towards the Navy. And also it put America in a hole to start a war with one of the most powerful navies in the world at that time. And because they had to send carrier groups out without battleship escort for the next, you know, few months, and not months but years, because they didn't have available battleships, and so which is essentially sending out your most valued possession into into like New York without any kind of thing to protect it or any, you know, and it's a hostile environment, and you're sending out these things that are basically the backbone of your whole entire Navy, and you have destroyers to protect it, and they did that for months and months, you know. Go ahead.
Japan was just pissed off because we had all the parkours and FDR wouldn't give them up.
Well, there you go.
We were having a serious discussion
match.
We were having a serious discussion for a minute there. You know, I almost thought we had an actual legitimate show here for just a second there. So thanks for disabusing me. Thanks for disabusing me of that notion. Anyway.
You love it and you know it.
Nothing in life is easy, bunny.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
anyway,
it's funny that after like 80 years, you know, documents are coming forth, and witness testimonies and stuff like that were documented, handwritten, are coming out, showing basically that, you know, there was something weird about what went on, or at least from those from afar, on what happened at Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And like I said before, they picked up transmissions, they picked up coded messages. I mean, they already had the code breakers already knew what type of cipher they were using and all that other stuff like that. Yeah. There was the series of wind messages, basically weather messages, which were code for specific targets and things like that. Yeah. So, you know, and they knew this. They knew all of this shit. They knew the Japanese had gathered intel on the United States, on our bases. They, you know, already probably had spies there keeping tabs on stuff.
We know they had spies there.
Yeah, but it's just, you know, did FDR know? I know what he wanted. He wanted to help Britain, and he wanted to have a provocation to go to war.
Right.
Okay. Plain and simple, flat out. But he couldn't do anything because Congress was not having any, you know, we're going to declare war unless there was something overtly happened to us.
If we were attacked directly.
Because what happened after Pearl Harbor, the next day, we declared war on Japan. 2 days later, the Germans declared war on us.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
which pretty much cleared that up. I mean, FDR is pretty much like, yes, because that's who he wanted to go after anyway.
Right.
He always wanted to go after Germany. One of the things that strategically, if you look at it, it doesn't make sense strategically because it completely, totally decimated their navy going into a battle with a navy that was comparable at that time. When they first started, they were actually in the hole. They were actually at a disadvantage, and nobody would go into a war that way. And so, besides, FDR had around him a bunch of yes men and people who were kind of looking after their own interests. And
gee, who's that sound like today?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of like today when you have a bunch of nepotism and you have a bunch of people that aren't suited for the positions they're in get appointed. And you get a lot of
Supreme
you get
Court
a
justices
lot of,
that don't know what women are.
Yeah,
what the hell is that?
Something like that.
I don't know what is a woman. Who knows? Somebody knows.
But there's a lot of there you go. But there's a lot of cronyism that was like really around FDR, especially. FDR, he was basically behind a lot of it. You know, he had had a bunch of people in positions that they didn't belong, and so even if they had known, that bunch of idiots wouldn't have been out. They were making decisions. The Navy would basically have to run everything through these guys, and then they'd say, "Okay, this is what we need to do." They'd run it through these guys around FDR, and then get told if they could do it or not. And once the war started, and once that system broke down around Pearl Harbor, he basically said, "Okay, you guys get out of the way. I need to hear directly from the people." But before that point, there was that group of people around him that were like, filtering everything, and they were, what's the guy, Mr. Smithers? He had a bunch of Smithers around him. Okay. And
no, you mean,
and
yes, Smithers.
Yeah. There you go. But he had already been, exactly. He had already been president for over 10 years, and and they'd been primarily in peacetime at that time, and so a lot of corruption had crept in. A lot of these middle management had come in, and so even if he had even if they had sent Stanek says that they sent the information that he thought that the Japanese were ready to attack on the 4th. Mm-hmm. And so it would have got to these people, and then they would have just been sitting here like, okay, what's politically expedient for me to do with this information? And even if it went directly to FDR, I don't know that they would have moved fast enough because there's a lot of bureaucracy. And so that's the best like explanation that I could find.
Well, I got a theory. Like we were saying before, none of the aircraft carriers were in harbor at the time of the attack. They're all at sea, right, doing maneuvers. Mm-hmm. Could this been something that FDR knew about because he had privy to the information of the war games in 32? Saying, okay, let's get all the aircraft carriers out and leave the old battleships that we need to replace anyway, in port, knowing that they're going to attack.
That does seem to be but the one that got me, I believed that theory for a long time, but then somebody mentioned that the Enterprise was supposed to be in port. And the Enterprise was the crown jewel. Enterprise became the ship that wouldn't sink. And Enterprise basically, that was the like the pinnacle of American know-how at that time. And and she didn't sink. I mean, they took a while to sink that baby. But she was supposed to be in port, except for the storm that kept her out of port, and so so that kind of prevents me from thinking that. Plus, they had to send everything out without escorts.
Wrong Enterprise, B-Dog.
Yeah.
No shit.
Same name, different ship. Yeah. Same name, different ship.
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
At the dilithium crystals, Captain.
Anyway.
Hello, computer.
Well,
hello, computer. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. The mouse is there.
Anyway. We found a nuclear vessel, and it is the Enterprise.
Vessels.
Anyway,
The first U.S. Navy aircraft carrier was the Langley, and that entered service in 1922. So that's kind of cool.
Well, but yeah, the Enterprise was just like that in the Yorktown and
Yorktown that took heavy
Hornet.
damage.
Oh, the Yorktown was a son of a bitch. It basically won midway. It not sinking one midway basically.
Yeah,
they sent two groups after the Yorktown after they thought it was already sunk. And it still survived until a torpedo took it out.
And 72 hours later, after getting back to port, they had that thing repaired and out back to sea. And they were, the Japanese were shocked. How can it be the Yorktown? I thought it was destroyed. No.
Yeah. How many times have they killed? It's like, how many times have we killed this ship?
It's like that thing, isn't it? It's like that thing in Formula One where it goes into the pit crew and then off it goes again.
Well, Halsey was in charge of the Yorktown, but but basically, I just don't think that they would have started out that much in the hole. I don't think they would have exposed their carriers like that because they had no battleships to escort it for the better part of 2 years almost before they got some up to speed. They repaired enough and sent some out. And I don't think it would have done that. Even if he wanted to get us into war, I just don't think this is the way he would have done it. I think if it was like Wake Island or a smaller island or something out of the way, I think that's what they would have preferred and what they were hoping would happen because they kind of like pulled stuff back off of those islands. You can ask the people on Guam what that was like when they kept calling in for help and they didn't get any. Guam was like the first battle that we had with Japan. Guam happened before Pearl Harbor, and
they moved ships from the east, from the Atlantic Fleet to the Pacific Fleet until they got more boats built.
Yeah, they did. But the biggest boats were in the Pacific,
right?
But so I mean, they had a lot of heavy cruisers, a lot of destroyers and things like that, but they didn't really have a lot of battleships.
Not a lot
ready to go. The battleships at that time were the primary. The carriers really hadn't. Carriers were like still pretty brand new, and people didn't really understand how powerful carriers were yet.
No.
But we had 4 or 5, but the Enterprise was supposed to be in Pearl Harbor, so that makes me think that this wasn't deliberate. So I'm gonna go around the horn. It's about that time. So Wookie, did FDR know? Yes or no? What do you think? Was it confirmed, debunked, or in the middle?
I'm gonna say he knew something, but I don't think he knew specifically what or when. So I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna be a little bit on the middle on this one.
In the middle, okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Kroll?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I think in the middle, definitely, they definitely were aware of the communications and possible activity. As to whether they knew precisely what was going on, I don't know. Can't really say.
Okay,
but they certainly took advantage of it. So
it's all a plot.
yeah, they certainly took advantage of it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm in the middle.
So what do you think, Abby?
I think he knew of the attack and when it was coming. Whether he told people to stand down the first few hours of the attack, I don't think so. But I think he had prior knowledge to it. So I'm kind of like in the middle, you know.
Okay.
You're in the middle, edging towards confirmed, aren't you? You want a completely new category again, don't you?
Well, I created undecided because of you, so you know it is what it is.
He wants another one.
All right, I'm gonna end my poll in my chats.
All right, what does your poll say? I don't have anybody in my chat really.
Let's see. Okay, so we have 5 votes. I have 3 votes for confirmed. 1 undecided and 1 in the middle.
Okay.
1 in the middle.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Okay. All right.
1 undecided.
Well, it looks like I'm gonna go be the tiebreaker. I'm gonna say in the middle. I think they knew something. I think they knew that the increase of chatter, and I think that they did want Japan to attack something, but they didn't expect
FDR and and Admiral Stark and General Marshall definitely wanted Japan to draw first blood, so they could legitimately go in and ask for declaration of war and to help Britain and all this other stuff. So.
Well, I do think that they primarily wanted Germany to declare war, and they were primarily focused on that. I don't think that they wanted. I don't think they wanted a 2-theater war this early. It just didn't make a lot of sense because it put us we had to split our forces immediately, and So yeah. So all right. Good old Captain Admiral Stubby.
There was I just lost my train of thought.
Abby someone.
Well,
normal?
It's okay. Okay. So I guess we're gonna line up in the middle on this one. There we go.
Yeah.
The middle.
Well, that's
Good play. All right. Okay. So there was something to it, Grandpa, but we just don't. We're not completely 100% convinced. So you're going to be very disappointed in me, and I'm totally okay with that.
There we go.
You're disappointed in me in life, and so you can be so in death. That's fine with me. Let's just say I'm okay with that. Anyway. But okay, so RIP to the 3,000 people that were, had their lives irretrievably changed by this. And for all the people who died in the Pacific Theater because the emperor was listening to the wrong people, and Japan not too big for its britches. And we basically put them back to the Stone Age, and they've recovered very nicely. But I think we
well,
they recovered, and they recovered with our help too.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, this is why
made to the Americans with Japanese products.
Yeah.
This is why they only have a a self-defense force, isn't it? It's the reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
Same with Germany.
Well, what happened after the war was that the samurai culture basically disappeared because the people finally said, well, this is bullshit. You guys drug us into this, and we got, now there's a smoking crater where Hiroshima and Nagasaki are that is going to be irradiated for years to come. And we're not a big enough island country for have that much damage, but they basically so they went back to the drawing board and they kind of channeled that imperialism into capitalism, and now they're pretty much most powerful capitalist country on the planet. Yamamoto died about midway through. He was shot down in a plane.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were trying to sneak around in a cargo plane and they shot it down.
Yeah. It's funny because the guy who shot it down, he was just like roaming through. He was kind of like lagging behind his group, and he just happened to see this cargo plane. He just casually shot it down, and then and then he didn't know it was Yamamoto. They didn't know it was Yamamoto for a long time. But it's funny. It's this casual guy, and he just shot down the most powerful or the most intelligent military mind. Yeah, it's funny. It's just hilarious. Yeah, he's just roaming through, and he's just like, oh, there's a cargo plane, shoot it down, and then just went on his way. And Yamamoto was on that plane. It's one of those things. But anyway, so that's been pretty much Cryptids and Conspiracies today. If you know any World War II veterans, salute them for us. And
they're far and few between nowadays.
Yes, very few between.
Yeah, I just did a video today on the basement of my church used to be full of elderly people in less than 5 years.
I saw that. Yeah,
they've almost completely been wiped out.
Yeah. I saw
and
that.
We've had a whole generation just go down in the last 4 or 5 years for whatever reason. Heart attacks, strokes, and supercharged cancer.
Yes,
for whatever reason.
I'm sure some have probably died of old age as well.
I'm sure.
Besides those other things.
Yeah, other things.
Anomalies.
Allegedly. So I just say that much. Anyway, but yeah, if you want to, Mike Rowe did an interview with the granddaughter of a guy who survived the Arizona.
Yeah,
and it's an incredible interview.
That's real good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So I would definitely watch that. If you want to commemorate Pearl Harbor.
I said the USS Arizona.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that entered service in 1916. I think.
Yeah.
I think it was 1916.
Well, he was actually. He was on that famous picture. He was still on the ship when it was burning, and he had burns.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he had burns like 65% of his body, and what did he do as soon as he recovered? He went right back into battle. I mean, he re-enlisted.
Right.
So they were built different, man. They were built different. They were built by
why they got the term the greatest generation. You know?
People definitely.
Well, that depression, man, it built men. It built some men, I tell you.
Yeah.
I hear.
But anyway,
I told a story before. I remember my dad taking my grandfather to a bank and making him get a bank account because he always was cash and carry because of the depression.
Right?
Yeah,
he didn't trust banks.
Yep.
No.
Exactly.
No. And we can thank J.P. Morgan for that, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks to JP. Bastard.
Yeah. Anyway, we are not fans of JP Morgan on this channel. I'll just say that much.
No,
doesn't show.
No.
How many conspiracy theories have we hit him in now? About 5 or 6.
At least 4.
Yeah, he's at least 4 to 6.
I was about to say 4 at least.
Yeah.
JP Morgan.
Yeah. That dude was evil. Anyway. All right.
Evil.
Evil.
Call
anyway.
him Mini-Me. $1 billion.
All right. Before we get too far afield, thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time here on Cryptids and Conspiracies. We'll be back on Saturday night. Yeah,
yep,
bye everybody.
Back to
see you
Saturday
back
night.
No.
We'll see you.
All right.
Bye.
There we go.